Drew's not here. How are you all going to celebrate?
Oh, we're celebrating.
Would someone like to give a recap on what we did last time?
The window, the balcony. The prime part of the play. Basically, Romeo is like, "Hey, Juliet, what's up?" Juliet's like, "Hey, Romeo." Then the nurse is also trying to get Juliet's attention. Then they're all like, ooey gooey, honeymoon, romance, balcony scene.
Classic.
And then they're like, okay, well, the sun's coming up, so
Romeo was trying to be like, hey, why don't we go get married right now? No reason. And then Juliet was like, no, I don't want to get married right now. I don't really have any reason to do that yet, but really nice to see you. We should see you again. And then they kind of just split. But we actually pick up pretty quickly after that. We're following Romeo for the time being. And now, if we remember, his goal is to get married to Juliet, like, as soon as possible. Because he loves her and because he wants to have sex with her. And he can only do that if they get married. So he runs off to meet up with his friend, Friar Lawrence. And that is where we start the scene. We actually start in Friar Lawrence's room alone. We get to meet him first before Romeo barges in.
I think I want to be Romeo.
Okay, Darian's Romeo.
Romeo.
Sure, I can read Friar Lawrence's lines, provided the mic pickup is better.
It is.
Logan just gives me Friar vibes in that room with the green.
Friar vibes.
Friar vibes right now.
It was meant to be.
As we did
vibes.
It was meant to be. You are the friar.
Although, as we discussed, in middle school we had to memorize and recite a scene of Romeo and Juliet, and I was Friar Lawrence.
Wow!
So returning to roots. But also, we discussed last week that green is a sinful color, so maybe it's not good.
Well, it's about the contrast, though.
Well,
some kind of
we'll see. Friar Lawrence isn't the most, perfectly saintly character, perhaps.
Wow. Foreshadowing.
Yeah. When I saw Romeo and Juliet live once, and it was a modernized version. During the Queen Mab speech, they were playing basketball. And during this moment, Friar Lawrence was rolling a joint, and then when Romeo came in, he started smoking it and sharing it with Romeo.
Great.
Kind of G.
You can picture that if you want.
Kind of G.
I mean, yeah. So like down lower, we'll see it. He like smells a flower, but that's when he first like lights up.
Oh, that is the original script. We can't prove he didn't do that.
Flower indeed.
The devil's
we didn't have video cameras back then. We can't prove it.
Enter Friar Lawrence alone with a basket.
The gray-eyed morn smiles on the frowning night, checkering the eastern clouds with streaks of light, and fleckled darkness like a drunkard reels from fourth day's path and Titan's fiery wheels. Now ere the sun advance his burning eye, the day to cheer and night's dank dew to dry, I must upfill this osier cage of ours with baleful weeds and precious juiced flowers. The earth that's nature's mother is her tomb, what is her burying grave that is her womb. And from her womb children of divers kind, we sucking on her natural bosom find. Many for many virtues excellent, none but for some, and yet all different. Oh, mickle is the powerful grace that lies in plants, herbs, stones, and their true qualities. For not so vile that on earth doth live, but to the earth some special good doth give, nor aught so good, but strained from that fair use, revolts from true birth, stumbling on abuse. Virtue itself turns vice, being misapplied, and vice sometime by action dignified.
All right, so your mic is doing the thing again. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, just let me turn up the input gain and see if that helps. Is that better?
Seems to be. It's just it seems like it starts strong and then starts wavering at some.
Can you do like to be or not to be monologue so we can test like how.
Yeah, I mean, part of it's, I'm sure I have to mess around with the settings again, just on the basis of changing where I'm recording. But where I was recording is right in front of the master bedroom where Devin's stepfather will be going to sleep in like half an hour. So,
All right. Well, he can join. Friar vibes.
he does live in London, so maybe he's
Oh, dude,
our
perfect.
local expert.
Our local expert. Turning into a local expert.
Lives up the street from Ian McKellen.
Dang.
What?
Well, all right. So we'll
Sorry.
give that a go. Enter Romeo.
Give it a go.
Within the infant rind of this weak flower, poison hath residence and medicine power. For this being smelt with that part cheers each part, being tasted stays all senses with the heart. Two such opposed kings encamp them still, in man as well as herbs, grace and rude will. And where the worser is predominant, full soon the canker death eats up that plant.
Good morrow, father.
Benedicite, I guess.
What
early tongue-
I would love it if that was just written in there. Benedicite.
What early tongue so sweet saluteth me? Young son, it argues the distempered head, so soon to bid good morrow to thy bed. Care keeps his watch in every old man's eye, and where care lodges, sleep will never lie. But where unbruised youth with unstuffed brain doth couch his limbs, there golden sleep doth reign. Therefore thy earliness doth me assure thou art uproused with some distemperature, or, if not so, then here I hit it right. Our Romeo hath not been in bed tonight.
That last is true. The sweeter rest was mine.
God pardon sin. Wast thou with Rosaline?
With Rosalind, my ghostly father? No. I have forgot that name, and that name's woe.
That's my good son. But where hast thou been then?
I'll tell thee ere thou ask it me again. I have been feasting with mine enemy, where on a sudden one hath wounded me, that's by me wounded. Both are remedies within thy help, and holy physic lies. I bear no hatred, blessed man, for lo, my intercession likewise steads my foe.
Be plain, good son, and homely in thy drift. Riddling confession finds but riddling shrift.
Then plainly know my heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet. As mine on hers, so hers is set on mine, and all combined, save what thou must combine by holy marriage. When and where and how we met, we wooed, and made exchange of vow. I'll tell thee as we pass, but this I pray, that thou consent to marry us today.
Holy Saint Francis, what a change is here. Is Rosaline that thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken? Young men's love within lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes. Jesu Maria, what a deal of brine hath washed thy sallow cheeks for Rosaline. How much salt water thrown away in waste to season love that of it doth not taste. The sun not yet thy sighs from heaven clears, thy old groans yet ringing in mine ancient ears. Lo, here upon thy cheek the stain doth sit of an old tear that is not washed off yet. If e'er thou wast thyself and these woes thine, thou and these woes were all for Rosaline. And art thou changed? Pronounce this sentence then. Women may fall when there's no strength in men.
Thou chidest me oft for loving Rosalind,
For doting, not for loving, pupil mine.
and badst me bury love.
Not in a grave to lay one in, another out to have.
I pray thee, chide me not. Her I love now, doth grace for grace and love for love allow. The other did not so.
Oh, she knew well thy love did read by rote, that could not spell. But come, young waverer, come, go with me. In one respect I'll thy assistant be, for this alliance may so happy prove to turn your household's rancor to pure love.
Oh, let us hence. I stand on sudden haste.
Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast.
They exit. Yay!
Yay.
So Friar Lawrence. Great.
Jerusalem been dumped.
Simple scene here, pretty much. Romeo talks to Lawrence, and he, initially is like, "Oh my gosh, are you so tired? You look tired. Are you tired because you were with Rosalind? Eep. I can forgive you for your sins, if so."
Oh, I got you. Come on now.
Romeo's like, "Nah, I'm over her. I want to get married today." Keep in mind, by the way, that Romeo is very sleep deprived for the next day of this play. Juliet too, but Romeo especially, he doesn't sleep, it seems. And then Lawrence is like, all right. But he has some good lines before he kind of agrees. He's like, you cried so much, and it's like all that salt seasoned your love for Rosalind, and now it's going untasted. Oh. And of course, men's love is through their eyes, not their hearts. Which is
it's just age-old advice.
Yeah. So he goes, "I would not agree to do this, but I think that doing this will stop the feud," which he doesn't want to keep happening. So he does agree to go off and do it. So that's where we're going after this.
Pretty solid.
Yeah, I mean, he gives Romeo the business.
Yeah, actually.
Why did
roasts him just like his friends, more directly.
Why did you read Friar enters with a basket in air quotes?
Oh, because in my version, he had a joint.
It's grass cabbage dairy.
I just was like, I think it's just a basket in our version.
Headcanon, it's not.
Headcanon. Yeah, in real life, it's a basket full of herbs, and he's making
herbs,
potions and things, like healing potions. And he says that there's one flower that it smells really sweet, but if you taste it, it is poison. Wow. Maybe we should keep that one in mind.
Symbolic.
There's also I mean, even aside from just the general warnings of poison and things like that, there's also a callback to the line in Genesis about dust to dust.
Yeah, still, keeping the death theme throughout. Yeah, always coming back to that.
But had you just watched this, it would have just come off of not 5 minutes ago. The what's in a name that which we would call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet, and then hard pivot into a scene of a flower that smells sweet, but is in fact venomous or poisonous if consumed. Not venomous. That'd be insane.
That'd be insane. The flower bites back.
But yeah, it's true. It does lead in quite nicely. And Romeo, when he first explains what's going on, he uses a lot of violent imagery. He's like, "Oh, I'm wounded, and I'm with my enemy, and now you need to help us get rid of or heal our wounds." And of course, the wound is just like being in love. But like love keeps getting these warlike images throughout.
Which is very like romantic, right? Like for that, how to say, very Italian. Very Italian. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, they captured that pretty well.
I'm a big fan of Friar Lawrence telling Romeo to stop speaking in metaphors. That was pretty good.
Tell it to be straight, son.
You're out of your element, my dear.
Be plain a good son.
That's actually such a boss move. Like, yo, you're not good at this.
Which also does work really well with the headcanon of him being high. He's just like, what?
Yo, what's up? Talk straight, bro.
Well, and I also like his whole rationale of figuring that Romeo hasn't been to bed, largely on the basis of, I mean, young man up this early in the morning, either you're really worried about something or you just didn't sleep.
Yeah, also accurate.
You knew what was up.
Yeah, my parents would give me shit for being out of bed at a reasonable time in the morning when I was a teenager.
Oh, you were with Rosalind, weren't you? They were like, "Oh, Annette, you done with the Rosalind?" You're like, "No."
There's one line. So he's like, "Are you changed? You were just crying for Rosalind, and now you're like not, I guess." And then he says, "Women may fall when there's no strength in men." And I was looking into that, and it says that there's the the literal interpretation, women are going to fall down if men are not strong enough. But the one that he's kind of getting at is, if you are this flighty and like if you go this quickly between women, why should they be loyal to you? So it's like you have to, if you're going to act this way, you're not going to get much better in return. Which is kind of nice to warn him of that. If you were, we know he's going to die. But yeah.
You know he's going to die.
We know he's going to die, but if he were not and he were just a regular teenage boy, like that is pretty legit advice. It's like, look,
like, you got to sit down for a second.
The man who swore celibacy dishing out the only solid romance advice.
Actually,
I also really like his line, for doting, not for loving. Like I was making fun of you not for having a crush on this girl, but for being obsessed.
Actually,
Romeo getting mad and saying, you told me to break up with Rosaline, and being like, well, yeah, I told you to break up with her, not to date someone else.
It was a gentleman.
I mean, Friar Lawrence obviously makes a tragic mistake late in the play. Spoiler, but that's been forewarned in parts we've already read and talked about. But otherwise, the voice of reason in the play, and not in the mocking, jibing way that Mercutio is the voice of reason.
Mm-hmm. He is, although, there's a question on whether he is doing the smart thing here by agreeing to marry these young kids because he thinks it might solve the feud. It's quite the move, and it's quite invasive. I mean, this is like a dramatic situation. People are dying, getting killed in this feud, or they have died and they are about to. But still, he's like, yeah, I'll help you kids get married so that your parents relax. It's like, that's a big move to make in something that you're not involved in. So it's kind of like, should he have done this? It's up for debate.
Well, also, like, the feud affects everyone, doesn't it? Because, like, even the prince is down here being like, cut that out. I don't know. I could see the friar being like, no, like, if it's for the good of everyone, if this feud ends, which I think a lot of us want, and if this marriage that I could just go ahead and perform could, like, lead to that, yeah, like, why not?
Let's end it. Why not? See how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that the other people in this town have tried everything at this point to end the feud, to get the two families to simmer down. Like, the prince threatened them with death, and they're still, like, I could definitely see them being ready to try anything to, like, get the two families to get along at this point.
Yeah.
And there's also,
it's like threatening them, like, obviously they're going to do it, but they're not happy about it.
I mean, there's also in this scene a bit of an ironic callback, or I guess a dramatic irony, where he starts this by talking about a plant. Men like plants containing within them powerful medicine or deadly poison, and in this case, opting for something that seems sweet and as though it will resolve the town's troubles, but we know will instead be tragic. I was also double checking etymologically the word rank, or for, just means hatred or rage, but it actually comes from the same root as rancid and rotten. So you get a bit of another element of talking about turning the rancor to pure love, so turning the hate into love, but also you get a bit of a callback to the poison and medicine in all plants and people.
Yeah. And it relies on how you know how to use it. The line, virtue itself turns vice, being misapplied. And it's like, if you know how to use the plant properly, it's going to be perfectly fine. But if you don't, and if you make a mistake, then you might die.
Yeah, I really like his opening monologue there, where he's talking about the duality of nature, how it provides everything you could possibly need, and it's lovely, but also it's deadly, and it's what will kill you. It will take everything from you. It will take as much as it gives. And you just have to have the knowledge of how to use what it gives correctly so you don't die. How he acknowledges the kind of gray area in between. Virtue itself turns vice, being misapplied. Like you can have good intentions, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can cause trouble for yourself. And vice sometime by action dignified. Like if you do the wrong thing for the right reasons, it's probably fine. Which kind of clues you into his mindset of marrying these kids. Like, yeah, the families hate each other. Yeah, they're young and dumb, but I'm hoping that this will end up being a good thing.
Seems like he's going for like a bit of exposure therapy, you know? It's like, look, okay, what if I force a Capulet to, you know, be in your house? Like, how about that? Like, now you have to love her. Like,
yeah. You're not going to kill your in-laws, right?
Right.
You're not going to kill your...
Right?
Right?
I mean, maybe. And I mean, for what it's worth, real spoilers, but I mean, old man Capulet never kills anybody. Nobody who, as we understand, is in the main family branch of the Capulets does any gutter crimes.
Good point.
Call them cousins. So, pro tip ahead of this Thanksgiving season. Spoiler for when we're recording this, cousins are the root of all evil.
Yeah.
Cousins are the root of all evil.
I would say, yeah, maybe this will be out by the later.
Yeah, you won't be seeing this until well after Thanksgiving. But for us in the here and now,
Watch out for those cousins.
Watch out for those cousins.
When one of your cousins starts a violent gang war over Thanksgiving, you'll look back at this episode and be like, they could have warned
me. They did warn me.
Yeah.
Can't say you weren't warned.
It is funny to me the extent to which Romeo's written as being genuinely confused by Friar Lawrence referring to Rosalind.
Yeah, even though like 12 hours ago he was still obsessed with her.
I have forgot that name and that name as well.
No, you haven't, bro. Stop playing.
What are you talking about, Friar? He's like, what am I talking about? What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? What's wrong with you?
Like, it's a kind of joke that you would see so often on TV now. It is actually very funny that it's not even just recognizable, it is almost the same joke.
But honestly, it's the cliche of sitcoms.
Yeah, if Charlie Kelly promptly forgot someone's name within 5 minutes of an episode of Sunny, it would
actually.
Yeah.
It's like Charlie saying he's over the waitress, which honestly would be a great episode.
Well, no, there was an episode where Charlie pretended to be over the waitress, but the trick is that was for pretend.
Yeah, that would have been a great twist in Romeo and Juliet, where Juliet was actually like the vessel to Romeo getting back with Rosalind.
Well, you know, I like thinking about, I know there's that movie about Rosalind now. So I read a book a while back that was in an alternate 80s, and it was a world in which the Beatles never broke up. And that sounds great, you know, but then the main character was like, oh God, yeah, like the Beatles like 12th album, it was terrible. Like they're just so old and bad and everything. And it's kind of just like, yeah, I mean, you know, probably if they stayed together, they would start making bad music just like every old band does, like eventually. And so it's funny to think about like Romeo and Juliet are frozen in time before they got to make bad albums. So like to think about if they did get together and started dating, and if they weren't, you know, just getting married so quickly, like, would they have stayed together? And the answer is
dysfunctional relationship, probably, yeah.
Probably not.
Would have been a better message, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I do have to say this. The trick is, probably wouldn't be able to get it annulled because the friar wouldn't annul it. And this is well before a time where divorce was kosher, except in extreme cases. So the trick is they would have to stay together, at least legally.
Right, but like we're saying, it just like would be not good.
Yeah,
that would be the best part.
Probably not.
That would be a good book to write.
And some in-laws would be murdered.
Some in-laws would be murdered. Even Friar.
They kill Friar Lawrence.
Have a taste
First
of
to
your own
go.
poison. First to go is
Let us
Friar.
do this.
Your fault.
It's like a weird like Macbeth twist, but it's
Yeah.
Juliet goes freaking crazy.
No.
Like Kill Bill.
Yeah, Juliet goes full Kill
Oh
Bill.
my God.
Starts with Friar. Yeah, frankly, though, you know that that's the issue that I have with like this type of thing, was I feel like that is almost hinted at, that this is a ridiculous relationship to begin with, but it got idolized for some reason.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, if you look at it from any kind of reasonable perspective, yeah, this is going to be a terrible relationship between these two. It's ridiculous drama, and you know, it's probably not going to last. But everyone's looking for their, what is it, like, is the Jim and Pam is the modern Romeo and Juliet in some ways, right? And I consider that a very, very dysfunctional relationship, if you ask me. And you know, that's the vibes I'm getting.
I think
Yeah.
I like Jim and Pam.
Well, all right, so
I haven't
can we
watched it
get
in a
into
while.
can we get into this? I have
Yeah,
opinions
sure.
on this topic.
This is
You
now
have
the
opinions?
theme of the episode.
I remember being happy about them getting together.
That's the thing. When I first watched it, that's how I felt. But after I watched it when I was what, 25. So 2 years ago. I watched it 2 years ago, right? Pam is extremely manipulative.
Okay.
Uses Jim. Jim is a terrible human being who constantly like harasses his clearly mentally disabled coworker. Like, clearly has issues. Clearly has on some spectrum of autism, and Jim is continuously harassing this man. And they both spend most of the time at their job harassing a coworker, kind of just like messing about, ruining a perfectly functional relationship multiple times. I think they're terrible people, frankly.
I would love to do The Office according to
I would love to recap The Office
but some other time.
some other time. But yeah, I'm gonna put that out there. This is foreshadowing for our future content. Jim and
Nice.
Pam are Romeo and Juliet of our current time, and they're even worse, is what I'm arguing.
Including the part where they get poisoned. I mean, like we discussed.
Yeah, boys.
I mean, it's like we discussed at the very start of this, though. It's obviously a rushed, half-baked teen idea. But the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet is that all of the other nonsense going on around them turns it into a genuine tragedy instead of just two teens having a reckless idea. Like, I don't think anywhere in the play it especially pushes that this is a good or properly functional courtship, but it's also, it shouldn't result in, I think, 5 deaths by the end of the play.
It also begs the question if romanticizing this relationship so much is partially due to this scene and the importance that Friar Lawrence places on it. Like, oh, we have a chance to end the feud if these two crazy kids can make it work. So he may be encouraging them, like putting way too much pressure on this to work out, just like making it a bigger deal than it actually is by saying your love will bring people together, even though he knows that they're just silly kids.
I mean, I think what it is more so is that in media, people like romance plots, either a subplot or a main plot, in which the couple has to overcome obstacles to get together and maintain a relationship. And an easy way to have there be an obstacle that does not implicitly imply something bad about the relationship itself is to have some external factor that prevents the couple together.
Yeah.
Like,
so I think it's more so
disapproving friends and family.
Yeah,
not
so
vendetta levels, but
so I think it's more so Romeo and Juliet sets a mold for relationship in which there is nothing about the two people that keeps them apart, and nothing about their personalities that is an obvious barrier between them, but something external. So I think it's really just, it sets a template for a type of plot that people generically like in other cases. And so people kind of like retroactively romanticized specifically this relationship through the lens of other media they like that came out centuries later.
That's true.
Yeah, I feel like nobody actually romanticizes the character of Romeo getting with the character of Juliet. I think it's just like they become archetypes over
Mm.
time.
I think in a lot of the films, they kind of really. I think a lot of film versions of Romeo and Juliet kind of ramp it up a bit, or the tragedy is that they're unable to be together, as opposed to, well, no, not really. I mean, that's kind of whatever.
Yeah. And you
Mhm.
also have this trend in modern media of comparing relationships to Romeo and Juliet, even if the situations aren't similar at all. And
Not the same situation.
every time you have a couple who has like it's us against the world type of plot
Ah.
where everyone disapproves, like, oh, we're star-crossed lovers, we're gonna be together in spite of what everyone thinks. We're like Romeo and Juliet, and everyone who's actually read the play is like, yo, they die.
They die.
I'm pretty sure you don't actually want to be like Romeo and Juliet.
Like, I know you're
It's not end
16.
well for anybody.
It's not going well for anybody, actually.
Well, I mean,
The people outside.
even if you just read synopses or reviews, the number of times things will be said, the number of times we'll see some variation of a Romeo and Juliet scenario, a Romeo and Juliet setup, even if it's just like they're from rival high schools where their football teams have beef, or they're the inheritors of rival publishing companies. Just any situation whatsoever, it's like people around them dislike people around someone else. Like,
Were you
like
specifically shouting out the hating game just now, or?
I think subconsciously.
I love the hating game.
I mean, I wasn't calling it out. It's more so just advertising and discussing that as a Romeo and Juliet setup is just Romeo and Juliet has, in full TV tropes fashion, become a byword for there's a contextual difficulty.
Yeah.
In the same way, I mean, even less accurately than how every action movie for a while was Die Hard, but in a insert location.
Yeah.
But in that case, people are deliberately copying the plot of Die Hard.
Yeah, Die Hard, but cars.
Yeah. Or when every movie was, it's like the new Hunger Games.
Oh
Yeah.
my god. Oh my god. Which is all Fortnite.
There are a lot of those.
Yep.
Yeah. Lots of old video games became that way. Oh man.
Skyrim with guns.
Skyrim with guns.
Classic
actually.
review of a game.
Skyrim with guns sounds great. It does exist. There's a gun mode in Skyrim. You can definitely have a machine gun in Skyrim.
No, I think was it Far Cry? It was some game that is not at all like Skyrim, but is just vaguely open world. Where there was an infamous, I think, IGN review where they said it's like Skyrim with guns.
Oh my god.
Which just to say, it is a video game.
It's a video game featuring guns
It's
in
a
an
video
open
game
map.
with guns. What else is
Yeah.
It's an open world sandbox.
Yeah, but I think Romeo and Juliet falls into that same trap.
That's so true.
Anything even remotely similar in setup, people will compare to Romeo and Juliet, even if a lot of what makes Romeo and Juliet such an effective play is the specifics.
Honestly, it's like Avengers, Romeo and Juliet, with like big purple guys.
Also, it's not. I mean, we've discussed this plenty of times in previous episodes too. It's also not like Romeo and Juliet came up with, or even especially set the template for relationship where other people don't want them to be together.
Actually,
I mean, let's circle back to. Well, the Iliad's a bad example because Paris and Helen. That's a very strange, right? But I mean, even plenty of Greek myths of Pelops and
Paris and Helen, Romeo and Juliet. I see it, man. I see it.
So you're saying Romeo and Juliet is a reference to the Iliad?
I'm hearing
exactly what he's saying. He just argued that point clean.
Exactly that.
Honestly. So yeah, that's yeah.
But I mean, yeah, but I guess by comparison, actually, this isn't so bad. Only 5 people die instead of like tens of thousands of people over a day.
And gods.
That's true, yeah.
Yo.
By the way, I don't know if but in one of the documents of videos we could do, Logan put in like a quiz show where he quizzes how well we remember the Iliad.
Whoa. Honestly, I love it.
Let's do it.
All right. Just get on board. It'll be hilarious.
Well, I'm so on board. It's just
Special.
I talk all this smack, but I don't remember anything, so I'm gonna get exposed, and I'm not ready to be publicly shamed.
Yeah, we'll be exposed, but also like I think there are things that we'll remember that surprise us.
Probably. Yeah.
I remember the name Agamemnon. That's a big one.
And do you remember who Agamemnon is?
I remember there's the Romeo and Juliet, and there's like the Friar, whatever. Like if you were to put in the Romeo and Juliet context, I think he is like
Son of Atreus, you know?
Son of Atreus.
Agamemnon, one of the Atreides.
Atreides, and he's
you have Agamemnon, Menelaus, and
he's like
Atreides.
For another episode.
Nestor.
So there you go. Preview of the quiz.
Preview of the quiz.
Throw in the comments who was Agamemnon, king of Mycah.
Who was Agamemnon? Hit that up.
Who
was Agamemnon?
Tell us in the comments, did you hear Romeo and Juliet referenced before you actually read Romeo and Juliet?
Did you see like a TV show where they were putting on Romeo and Juliet in the TV show before you read Romeo and Juliet? And if so, which show?
Did you read Twilight before Romeo and Juliet is what we're saying.
Did you also have a health class in which your sex ed video was about a high school production of Romeo and Juliet?
What?
Wow.
Okay. Like and subscribe for Romeo and Juliet, the Iliad, and everything
The
else.
Office.
Everything
The
else.
Office.
The Office.